Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we're going over some of my favorite plays for the 11-game NBA slate for tonight on Draftkings. Before we continue though, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. And if you're interested in getting access to the spreadsheet I build every single night and my cheat sheet and my Slack chat, links available in the description below for my Patreon. And I say we get right into it. So, just from a slate point of view, it's looking like another stars and scrubs night. There's plenty of studs on this slate, and it's looking like there's going to be plenty of value options as well. And this strategy has worked pretty much every single night. I think we've had like 6 main slates so far, so we're working. We're going to stick with it until DraftKings gets their pricing correct, because the studs aren't as priced up as they should be, and then there's a lot of guys that are just way too cheap. So we're going to take advantage of this again tonight. And the first guy I want to talk about is going to be a center, in Andre Drummond at 9,300. He is one of my favorite plays of the night, and I love this as a bounce back spot for him. He did put up kind of a clunker in his last game out versus Philly, and I shouldn't say kind of, it was a big clunker. He had 34 fantasy points at 9,500, which obviously that sucks a lot. But if you didn't know, he did get into foul trouble really quick. He picked up 2 quick fouls, and then he picked up a third one shortly thereafter, which obviously killed him. He's only played 25 minutes. And we need way more than 25 minutes for someone at that price tag. We need the minutes he was seeing prior, 37, 41, where he wasn't in foul trouble. And still, though, he did produce 1.3 points per minute while he was out there playing conservatively because of all those fouls. As long as he stays out of foul trouble in this game, he should smash versus Indiana, and he's already done it before this season in their first game where he dropped 32 points and 20-plus rebounds in 41 minutes, which was good for 78 fantasy points, which is obviously amazing. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to do that again, but he does have a lot of upside with Blake Griffin being out still. He's always seen a bump in usage and points per minute with him off the court. And that's the truth so far this season. He's averaging 1.53 points per minute and a 25% usage rate. And as for the matchup, it's pretty darn good. I mean, yeah, it's pretty darn good. It's only been 2 games, but they haven't gotten killed by Drummond so far, and they also got shredded by Kevin Love, who did drop 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 assists, while Tristan Thompson dropped 25 points, 13 rebounds, and yeah, he had a lot of fantasy points as well. Tristan Thompson we're talking about. And Andre Drummond is definitely a better center than he is, and Kevin Love as well. And they both absolutely shredded the Indiana Pacers. So Andre Drummond, I think he should eat. No one's going to be able to stop him, and I think we see something closer to the 50-60 point range than we see from like the 48 to 30 some point range that he had the past couple games. Now, I don't think he's going to score 80 again like he did the first night, but maybe he does. It's the same exact matchup. He should be able to eat. I love Andre Drummond. I feel really comfortable plugging him in as the corners, as a key part of my lineups. And now we're going to head towards a guard position at point guard, and I like Russell Westbrook a lot at 9,400. As you guys can see, he's the thumbnail of this video. So I don't understand the price here. He's 9,400, and there's really no reason he shouldn't be in the 10K-ish range, or at least in the really high-end 9K range. So I do like the value we get already. Now, it's only been 2 games, but he's been a monster this season so far with 2 60-plus point outings to start the year, 62 and 65. And he's actually been outmatching James Harden so far, which is, it's pretty hard to believe. I was thinking James Harden was going to be the one that's balling out so far, and that Westbrook might take the hit a little bit, but it's sort of been a little bit backwards so far. But we'll talk about James Harden later too. But Westbrook, he's averaging 1.83 points per minute right now compared to Harden's 1.24. Now, this is obviously going to even out eventually, although one will have the higher one than the other, but it'll even out a little bit. And I do like Westbrook a ton. He's showing he can coexist with Harden and be an elite fantasy option, even sharing the load. Harden still has the highest usage rate on the team at 36%, but Russ is still at a very high 30%. And probably the most fun thing about this matchup is that if you like a good narrative, this is his first game versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and he's going to want to show out and ball out. Now, this should be a pretty high-paced game. It is actually one of the highest projected pace games on the slate, so there's plenty of points to go around for the Rockets, especially with that high team total of around 120. So give me all the Westbrook I can handle tomorrow at a price that I think is only going to go up, so I'm going to enjoy this 9K price while I can, as he's averaging a triple-double already. Small sample size, but that's what Russell Westbrook does. He gets triple-doubles, and he's averaging it as of this moment. And so I feel very comfortable loading him up. I like him a ton. He's going to be popular, but it's for a good reason at 9,400. Then I also like his teammate, James Harden, at 10,100. I know I kind of just made it seem like he hasn't done well this year, which, relative to his price tag, he hasn't. But when Harden's on a slate, I just don't feel like comfortable without him on my team, It's just kind of scary. And he's got more upside than anyone if he gets hot. And let me tell you, if the dude let me tell you, the dude has been pretty ice cold to start the season, shooting only 21.5% on the season, which is horrendous. His career he's sitting around 44%. So obviously that's going to come up. He's due for some positive regression. And despite those terrible shooting numbers, he still scored 50 and 40 fantasy points, and I will take that. I mean, the shooting's going to come, and so we're due for some positive regression. He's a fantastic play, in my opinion. He still has a massive 36% usage rate, and he'll take as many shots as he wants. I mean, he threw up 29 shots last game, and if he gets hot and you don't have him, it's going to be a pretty bad day for you. You guys saw what Harden could do last year. Obviously, he didn't have Russell Westbrook on the team, but still, James Harden, he is the man here. I mean, he's sharing the load with Russell Westbrook, but James Harden will get his if he's hot and he's just blazing threes. Yeah, it's going to be in for a pretty big fantasy outing. And he's not just scoring dependent either. On a horrid 50% shooting percentage in the first game, he still had 51 fantasy points since he stuffs the stat sheet. He gets his assists, he gets his rebounds. So Harden, yeah, I do like him, and if he gets a little less owned because of how hot Westbrook has been to start the season, just makes me like him a little bit even more. If James Harden's going to be lower owned. And I will give him the nod over Giannis because of blowout potential for Milwaukee is 15-point favorites. I still like Giannis. I think he's going to be fine. And I know the Rockets are still 10-point favorites, but it's still less, so I do like the Rockets' potential in this game of at least staying a little bit closer. So James Harden, I feel comfortable firing him up, even with Russell Westbrook in the same lineup. So these are my three studs right now. I got Russell Westbrook, I got James Harden, I got Andre Drummond. Those guys have a ton of potential here. You got a nice high floor, nice high ceiling with these three. I feel pretty good about this. And we have 42, 40 left in our lineup, per position left. Which it's not too bad. It's not like we only have 3,800 left per position. So I don't mind this right now. So now we're going to have to find some value guys since we spent all of our money. And the guy that's standing out to me is Marquese Chriss at 3,200. So now we need some value options, and Marquese Chriss looks like a pretty good value for me at 3,200. So let's pull up his player card. So, like I said, we need some value, and Chriss does stand out here as a decent one. He's been getting some big minutes for his price tag with Looney and Willie Cauley-Stein out, and I do think he's mispriced here at only 3,200. Now, as always, the problem with Chriss is he loves fouling. I don't know why, but he just does, and it sucks because, he's taking a trip to the bench early on in the first quarter pretty much on most occasions. But if you can't avoid that, I think we're in for a pretty solid fantasy day relative to his price tag. He draws a great matchup versus New Orleans, who is void of defense and plays at a blazing fast pace, so there should be plenty of opportunity here. He did see 23 minutes last night and posted a 10-4-3 stat line, which I will take all day at this price tag. And this is an even better matchup than he saw last night, so I think he's got a pretty decently high ceiling here compared to his price tag. If we project him for, a fair 20 fantasy points, which is typically around a point per minute, 20... If we project him for about 20 minutes, and he's typically about a point per minute guy, I'll take 20 fantasy points all day at that price tag at 3,200. He's basically min price. So I like the matchup. I like the minutes he should be able to get. I like the price tag. I don't mind Marquese Chriss here. He opens up the salary for us, so he makes some sense to me. And then we have two guys that might be benefiting from an injury. So the first guy I want to talk about is Kent Bazemore at 3,800. I think he makes some sense here. So, Zach Collins, he dislocated his shoulder and is going to be out for a while. So now Portland can go several ways here, and I don't know exactly what they'll do exactly yet. But if they go small ball, I do think Bazemore should benefit here. He ended up getting 30 minutes last night, and if you project him out for close to, say, 28 to 30 minutes, and he's somewhat below a point per minute guy, that's not too bad. We can give him about 23 to 26 point projection as a medium projection, and I will take that at 3,800 with a slightly larger role. So Bazemore, I think he makes some sense there. He had 30 minutes last night, only scored 17 fantasy points, but did have 30 fantasy points versus Sacramento on October 25th. So I don't hate Kent Bazemore. I think he's going to be pretty popular if he ends up getting an extended role here, which I think he can. So Bazemore, he makes sense at 3,800. And then another guy on the same team that could also be a benefactor here if we go to the forward position. So we got Mario Hezonja at 3,300. He's pretty much bare minimum. Just another guy that could benefit from Zach Collins. He ended up getting 25 minutes, which was up from the 18 minutes he saw in the first game. He ended up with 21 fantasy points, and for a guy who's 3,300, I'll take it. So let's say he gets 25, 28 minutes, and obviously he's less than a point per minute guy. So that should give us just north of 20 points if you just give him a baseline projection with some upside and an expanded role. So sign me up for that. Just make sure to monitor the news of what Portland decides to ultimately do, because as of right now, we are just guessing, which is all we can do at like 1 a.m. the night before. But Mario Hezonja looks like a pretty decent value as of right now. And that's all I'm going to do for you guys. We have 54.50 left, so you could go more mid-range and then go with the cheaper guy. Maybe you could spend up just a little bit, 7K range. Maybe I'm not totally sure what this would equal out to, but I think that's a pretty good core to start with. Obviously, things can change that throughout the day. It's only 1 a.m., so a lot of things can change. But as of right now, just initial thoughts on the slate. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to leave you guys with that. That's going to be all for the video. So if it was helpful, remember to leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16. If you're interested in the spreadsheets I build every single night, links available in the description below for my Patreon, cheat sheet, and Slack chat. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I wish you guys the best of luck.